Hello, and welcome back to They Made Another One, where each week we discuss an often forgotten installment in a franchise and see if you should check it out for yourself. I'm one of your hosts, Corey, and with me I've got Liam.
In the words of Dr. Dad, you're not like other women.
I'm so happy Dr. Dad was here. I was beside myself. I forgot he was going to be here, and it was a big day for me. But before we get to Dr. Dad and everything else in this movie, we've got two other people with us. Mitch is not one of them. He's doing something. Usually I come up with a funny thing. I don't really remember what he's doing, but he's not here.
He's in the city.
He's in the city. And in his place, we have Laura and Madeline back.
Hello.
Hello.
You will
We
remember
just said the same thing.
At
the same time.
We are basically the same person. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna line those up so it sounds like you said it at the exact same time. And
good idea.
It's perfect. So it's been a little bit since we had both you guys on, and I just need to ask this right away. Why are we talking about this?
There's so much to talk about. Why not? You know?
Okay, fair.
It's almost 3 hours of pure chaos.
Yeah, that's totally fair. So everybody's read the title. I just don't know how to get into this, but you've read the title. You know what we're here to talk about. It's Sex and the City 2, which is from the year 2010. Just a banner year.
Good year.
For Sex and Cities, I guess.
Hip-hop pop music as well. There's a lot of good pop music from that time.
A huge year for Liza Minnelli. Just a really exciting time in her life. But so what I need to ask first is because I don't know anything about Sex in the City at all, and I'm hoping that somebody here can tell me something about it. What's happening? Where are we? Who are these people?
Okay. I'll take a stab at it and then maybe you can try, Laura. So
Sure.
There are 4 best gal pals in the city, and of course the city is New York City. And the main one, like the main character, is Carrie, who's a bit of a self-absorbed writer type, and she writes a sex column. And in the column each week, she kind of writes about her friends' romps and drama and happenings, and so you see what's happening in all their different lives and how they're intertwined. And yeah, they have a lot of funny excursions and just weird encounters with different men and women sometimes and a bunch of different things. And yeah, it's a good time. It's a bad time sometimes, but even when it's a bad time, it's a good time.
I think that was a pretty good synopsis. Yeah, I feel like I don't even really have anything to add other than in the midst of all of their little escapades and stuff, there's always some sort of lesson or philosophy that they come to, some silly little philosophical thing about relationships that they come to at the end of each episode.
Yeah, and it'll be
those are lots of fun.
It'll be narrated by Carrie because she's writing her column about it, and she's always I couldn't help but wonder. And then,
If the lesson was really the friends we made along the way.
Exactly.
It's that sort of thing, Corey. Every episode is like that.
What was it with the 2000s and TV shows having narrators? Because I instantly just think of Gossip Girl also.
Yeah.
Which was just
I wonder
a city-based romp with a narrator.
Yeah, Sex in the City set the tone for so many TV shows like that. Gossip Girl probably got that from them. And then, yeah, there have been, I don't know. They were really the OG. So I don't know who started the narration thing.
I kind of love it.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice. You feel like you're in the column, you know?
Is she?
Yeah.
So in the show, this is not a joke question. Is she a good writer?
Allegedly. This is the other thing. The other thing that's hilarious is like, just, from the point of view of someone who is also like in the world of writers, it's just like this woman writes like a 500 word column a week, and she lives in this like massive, gorgeous apartment. She can afford all of these designer things. She can afford to meet her friends for like lunch, breakfast, dinner, like every day.
Yeah, there's a whole sequence in this movie where she complains that they're ordering in too much and not going out to expensive restaurants in New York City all the time.
Yeah, it's a lot. And then she at one point she ends up like writing for Vogue for like $4 a word or something like that.
Bro,
So
could you imagine?
yeah, and she lives in this beautiful like 2-bedroom apartment that's like, I don't know, $700 a month or something. It's crazy.
Yeah. I guess
Anyways,
we all have the unique insight from our education to know that this show is bullshit.
yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, at the time in the 90s, that was like the height. It actually might have been kind of realistic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, because the thing is, it's actually based on a true story, kind of.
Oh.
Like it's based on, what's her name? I
Is
think
this
it's
where
Candace
Candace
Bushnell.
Bushnell comes in?
Yeah,
Hey, I
yeah.
did
This is
research.
where, yeah, she was the real Carrie, and yeah, she had her column, and she wrote a bunch of books about it, like Carrie ends up doing, and yeah.
Man. So does everybody on this podcast have experience like with the TV show too? And like
Yes.
watching all that
Laura and I
stuff?
have seen all of it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen probably about 30 episodes or so. I first had to watch it just in the last
Had
year
to.
because we started getting it at work, so I was legally obligated to watch it. So I've probably seen about 30 episodes. Before that, I knew nothing about it, and so I just had to get really acquainted with this show. And because of the work I do, like watching one. Typically they're like 25-minute episodes, Corey. Watching one of those episodes would take me about an hour and a half, and so I was so invested in Carrie Bradshaw's world and all that she stands for. And so I've definitely missed a lot, but I watched the original movie back to back with this sequel movie, and at the beginning of that original movie they do a quick catch up, I guess for people who hadn't seen the show in order to now see this movie version.
Mhm.
They do a bit of narration about like, this is who my friends are, this woman is this personality type, and it was exactly the way I described it to my partner Brianna. The beginning of the first movie is like verbatim what I said to Brianna. Like, this one likes sex, this one's a businesswoman, this one has family values, and they do that right at the beginning of the movie. And there wasn't anything in either of these movies that I didn't understand. So I think the 30 episodes I've seen went a long way, especially because it wasn't 30 episodes all in a row. You know, it was some from this season and some from the later seasons, and so I was pretty well acquainted, and I had my mind made up on what I think about the show too. So
Yeah, I feel like honestly you could, because the characters are just so tropey, you could literally watch one episode of Sex and City and get what all the characters are about.
yeah, I don't think you're that lost here, Corey. Like, I don't think you're missing out. You got a good Sex in the City experience, and if this makes you want to go
Sex
back,
in the City experience.
If anything, like by the time it hits this movie, everyone has just retreated into like a caricature of their characters.
It
You know what I
feels
mean?
that
Like,
way. It really, like, Cynthia Nixon's whole job is like,
yeah,
I read a book. like I did research. And that's
yeah,
like all she does is she's like the book one. And
yeah.
then
Yeah.
Well, they had to give her a break because of what happened in the previous movie. I mean, that was her like drama time.
oh,
So
okay. So she had to
in
take a
this
back seat, and
movie,
now it's Kim Cattrall's drama time.
yeah.
And isn't one of them like, aren't they making a new one and one of them's not coming back or something?
Yeah, so this is the latest update.
Please.
They're making a new series, so it's not even a movie, it's like a series. There was going to be another movie, but that got I think like caught up in some drama. Again, the drama was that Sam was not joining, Kim Cattrall was not joining. And for this series, like Kim Cattrall is not joining either. So that's the big drama, is that Samantha Jones, who's like the best character, is like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And like rightly so.
Yeah, I respect it. I
Yeah.
respect that.
Yeah.
Totally.
I mean, you know, like, I can see why you come back to Sex and the City 3 if, like, you failed to be elected mayor of New York. Like, have a few other things that you haven't been able to do. But yeah, if you're whatever, man, just go live your life. Okay, so there's a lot of Sex in the City I could get to theoretically if I wanted to do that.
Mhm.
Actually, wait, we talked about doing something first, and we should
Yeah,
do
I
that
think we
now.
should do two things. I
Yes.
think we should try and like hum the theme song. Like
Oh,
on
wait,
three.
there was like an identifiable theme song?
Yeah, okay, Corey
Oh
doesn't know
no.
this. Laura, are you confident in doing this with me?
I'm confident.
Okay, I think it would okay.
But you have to do the HBO thing first.
Oh, I can't do that. Can you do it?
Because that's the theme song that, like, you know, everyone has the theme song that they anticipate after they hear the HBO song
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
HBO thing. That's the song that I automatically imagine starting.
Same.
Yeah, like Pat and I are watching The Sopranos right now, which is HBO, and every time I see that HBO thing, I just like expect the Sex and the City song, and it's obviously not going to be the Sex and the City song, but
Yeah, at this
yeah,
point
it's a good song.
Yeah, I think my Sopranos like urge has overridden my Sex and the City after the HBO thing, but
My HBO reflex is Game of Thrones still.
That's lots of people's.
Yeah,
Mhm.
true. I just gotta watch The Sopranos and I'll feel better about myself.
You
think-
do. You do.
You could tell a lot about someone if you play the HBO sound for them and then say, "What do you expect?" That's like a
What's
good.
yours?
That's
Liam?
a good icebreaker at work. It would be Sex in the City for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm. Okay, so we should. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Dun, 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 dun,
And then the lyrics start, right? I'm the new kid moving in, getting it done.
Feel free to cut that out.
Oh no,
No,
I
That was
am
really awful.
I'm gonna play it twice. That was amazing. Potentially the greatest thing that's ever happened on this show.
Corey,
And
you
I'm not
should
kidding.
you should bury the actual audio of the theme beneath it and see how much. it
Yeah.
landed.
Oh
God.
yeah.
You should.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that for sure. Oh, that's such a good idea.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So the next thing that we were gonna do is say, which character do you identify with? I think Laura and I have thought a lot about this. So Laura,
I like to say that I'm a Miranda sun with a Charlotte rising. That's what I feel like I am. Definitely mostly Miranda, just like Miranda's very like practical and like realistic in a romantic, like in her romantic relationships, which I feel like I relate to. But then also on the flip side, Charlotte is like the complete opposite and is just like such a hopeless romantic, sometimes like to a fault, which in a weird way I also feel like I relate to. So
yeah, for sure. I would say I don't know. I'm a half Carrie, half Samantha, I think. But I feel like it's like who you think you are and who other people perceive you as is different.
That's
as well.
true.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah, maybe we should do another round at the end and
Yeah.
call
Yeah.
everyone else out.
I'm also like, I'm very conscious of not saying that I'm a Carrie because everyone thinks they're a Carrie.
We can't all be Carrie.
Which is like the point, I guess.
But Carrie's like embarrassing. Like you don't really want to be a Carrie.
That's true. That's true. What about you, Liam?
You see, I would want to say that I'm Aiden because he's one of the few characters, certainly the few male characters who I like, but he likes Carrie Bradshaw, and so in that way we are completely different. So I think maybe I'd be a Steve.
Yeah.
Steve, he's loyal mostly. He's like he's kind of scrappy, maybe slightly endearing, and if I were to cheat on my beautiful partner, I would be apologetic about it. So
yeah.
So that's me, I think.
I gotta say, this movie didn't instill in me a great hope about the men of Sex in the City.
No.
They all seem pretty trash.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they are.
They
I'm
are.
gonna go ahead
Mostly.
and circumvent that entirely, and also say it's funny that some of the framing was about like what they're like in romantic relationships, because I feel like I didn't get a great read on that in this movie, because most people are just spiraling constantly.
That's true.
Yeah.
And in that spiraling, I felt like I was really identifying with the degree to which Charlotte cannot stop spiraling.
Yeah.
She is having the worst time. And while I don't feel like I'm like that all the time, there is a degree to the whole, I am just losing it in my own anxiety, and B, I can't stop checking my phone, that I felt like sometimes I'm like, yeah, I get it. So I felt like I was really connecting with Charlotte, whereas with everybody else, I was just sort of like, okay, what's going on here? What are we doing?
Mm-hmm. Charlotte's very lovable.
Yeah, like when she's not crying in a pantry because she can't handle her kids, she seems like she's having a pretty good time.
Yeah, so we should, I guess, just talk about. There's a lot to talk about in this movie, so we should just get started laying it all out. Yeah,
I'll give a plot rundown, and also really quick, I like how all four Sex in the City people were, I don't know what they're called, like as a group. I don't know how people, like the girls, I don't know.
Yeah,
I like
the
how
girls.
all of the girls were covered in our how we see ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And at least two of the men. Also, really quick, I just gotta ask this now. What's the appeal of Mr. Big?
Nothing.
Nobody knows.
Absolutely not. Like,
that's the greatest mystery of Sex and the City.
Of
is
all
like
time.
what the hell?
Just the most boring nothing man.
He's boring. He's not even cute. Like, this is like the person that Carrie obsesses over for years, and he's not even cute or charismatic. Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
So, like, I'm having a natural reaction that everyone has to that guy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's like probably like honestly, I feel like one of the most hated characters in television.
Also, really, I don't want to get too sidetracked too fast, but I also got to ask, why is he named that?
Because she, like, being a writer, I don't know, maybe it must have been like the way that she could write about him in her column without like using names. Maybe
the pseudonym was.
But you don't find out his real name until the very last episode, I think, of like the entire series.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's a very underwhelming name.
It's a
hilarious name. I'm just now seeing it for the first time.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, they had like 7 years to come up with that. They should have named him like McLovin or something.
Yeah,
like something ridiculous.
Very, very underwhelming.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's weird the Mr. Big thing. Like it seems like it's right there in line with the way that Carrie writes, where it's like everything that the show does is pointing us to say that we're supposed to feel one way, but then the general consensus is that we don't feel that way. All of us on the call don't like Mr. Big, and maybe don't think that Carrie is a very great writer, but everything in the show like totally pushes against that and just plugs their ears, and there doesn't seem to be any self-awareness there at all. It's like in the world of the show, allegedly Mr. Big is very sexy and charismatic, but
yeah, that's honestly
just,
like
yeah.
it happens with a lot of like the random, not so much like the other main guys, but like a lot of the random flings that they have. There's all these like really funny scenes in like bars where they're like, oh my God, look at that guy. He's totally checking you out. And then they pan to him and it's just like, and they're talking about this man as if he's like this sex god. And it's just some regular man.
Yeah, I'll say it.
And it's like
this bald guy in a polo shirt.
and it's like, just like,
I don't know if like 2003 just sucked, but
yeah, that's the thing. I'm wondering if the people who watched the show when it was coming out, like this was the guy, like the type
or maybe
of guy.
it's like maybe it's an age thing.
Yeah, like, yeah, because it's good to note that they are older. Like in the show, they're in their 30s.
Yeah, it's really cool to have you guys on, and now to hear that you basically feel the same as Corey and I, at least as far as we've gotten right now, because I've only been with this show for so long, so I haven't actually talked to anyone else about it, and I've got to wonder if it's like because that the show and the movies aren't actually written or directed by a woman. It's all about women, but it's actually written and directed, and the showrunner is a gay man, and so maybe that's it. Maybe we're actually like, it's more of a, I mean, the movies gave me the feel that this is like a caricature of women at this point. Like it's not actually representative of women and like women empowerment and stuff. Instead, it's like what a gay dude perceives women to be or something.
I don't think this movie is a reflective of any group of people it claims to show.
Represent. Yeah.
Like from top to bottom. Also, there is basically like not a single hot dude in this movie.
Yeah.
At all. So just to carry that through line.
I honestly don't know if there's a single hot dude in Sex and the City in the entire franchise.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I have to say, I don't know, like my favorite, or like, yeah, my favorite would be John Berger from like a couple of the
I think he was
shows.
He would have been the cutest, I would say.
Yeah, like he's cute.
I'm gonna Google this guy really quick.
Oh my god.
I'm doing the same, Corey.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've seen this guy.
But he also like he breaks up with her on a post-it note.
Oh, dude, I've never seen this dude in the show, but I love this actor. I know him, and yeah, that's a sexy dude.
Oh yeah, I know this guy.
Endearing man.
Oh, you know what? You know what was actually my favorite? We've talked about this before, Maddie.
Yeah.
I forgot, but when David Duchovny is in one episode and he's Carrie's like old high school boyfriend, and they like reconnect for like one episode, and it's really lovely, and he's my favorite man love interest that's ever been in the show.
Yeah, I would okay, yeah, mine like my toxic fave is Berger, but like my actual wholesome fave is probably David Duchovny. Yeah.
This Jack Livingston character, the actor, just looks like a long lost Duplass brother. Like that's all I can think of looking at him.
Yeah.
I wish that David Duchovny was just playing X-Files on Sex and the City.
Yeah, crossover episode.
Missed opportunity to get Carrie Bradshaw to write like sci-fi.
Or if she like oh my god, if she like profiled him for Vogue and like and came along on like an alien expedition and
that would be ridiculous.
Give the people what they want. Do you know how hard 2021 would lose its mind if that was made?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh! I got one that I like. Sorry,
we are never gonna get to this movie.
I'm looking at pictures of the various men that have shown up in Sex and the City to try to remind myself, because there were occasions where there would be a dude that Carrie or one of her friends would date in an episode, and I would look them up because I would be like, this person is awesome. Have they been in anything else? Are they going to be in more episodes? And it would turn out that they're just in that one episode. So it is one of those like revolving door shows where you just have a lot of guest stars. But one guest star who I really loved, and he was I was lucky enough that he was in multiple episodes, was our guy Corey, Kyle MacLachlan from Twin Peaks.
Really?
He is Charlotte's husband for a while.
Tragic husband.
Yeah, he's in.
I mean, he's got to be the best boy though, just as like a baseline, because it's Kyle MacLachlan.
He's actually pretty pathetic, but like,
yeah, his character is weak.
Is it in a charming way? Or just
No, it's actually quite sad, like the whole storyline.
In like a mama's boy way. But like, I love seeing, Kyle MacLachlan has range, and we love to see that.
Yeah.
Maybe too much range. He's one of those actors where like I love him so much, and so I always expect great things, but then he ends up, I guess, just the material that he
Oh,
sometimes is doing disappoints me. Like, he's the bad dude in the Flintstones movie.
Oh yeah.
And really let me down. He's also in How I Met Your Mother, and I don't think gets to do much in that one. So, at least he got to be Cooper again.
He's lots of fun in Desperate Housewives.
Oh, yes. Brianna loves that show. I'm dying to see it.
That's probably the first show I ever fell in love with. I was obsessed with it. And he plays like another husband who becomes somewhat pathetic. And he's very good.
I've got to watch that show. Is there do you think there'll ever be like a movie of that show?
I don't think so, because, and I think I don't know. It's actually similar to Sex and the City in a lot of ways, in the fact that there's 4 women,
right? Yeah,
who are very distinct, and it's about their friendships and their lives. And then also there's the similar thing as with Sex and the City, where there's a lot of feuding in the cast.
Was there a narrator?
Yes.
Yo, really?
Well, not every episode. There was. I'm not sure. I watched it a really long time ago, but at least in the beginning, there was a narrator, because the whole show starts with a woman, one of the core friends. There used to be 5 and one dies, and then she kind of narrates bits and pieces. But I'm not sure if it's every episode.
Honestly, that's close enough.
Yeah. It's suburban and suburban Sex and the City.
Yeah, I'm looking at some screenshots here. And yeah, that really just kind of seems like all it is. Which I say that disparagingly, which is maybe unfair. There's a girl in a cowboy hat in this one. That seems pretty exciting.
I've also actually heard Twin Peaks comparisons when it comes to that show. That there's
Desperate Housewives?
Yeah, that the neighborhood has a seedy underbelly to it. Mm-hmm. Is that the case, Laura?
Yes. Yeah, it definitely is. It's it's kind of, it's about the relationships and stuff, but then there's also murder. There's always murders happening in this suburban town. And that's actually, I've never heard that before, but that is interesting to think about. But it's good. I would highly recommend it. I want to rewatch it soon.
Well, cool. I wish there was murder in one of these movies.
So, we have 2.5 hours of Sex and the City 2 to get to.
Yeah.
And while this is way better to talk about, I'm just going to give a quick cast and crew rundown of Sex and the City 2, and then we can embark on that journey, because there's a lot to get to, I think. Written and directed by Michael Patrick King, who was a producer of the TV show in the first movie, and also Will and Grace and Two Broke Girls and some other stuff.
Oof.
Writing credits also go to Candace Bushnell, who wrote the book, and Darren Star, who created the show, and a bunch of other things like Melrose Place and 90210 and fucking Emily in Paris. Or isn't it? Wasn't there some shit going around that it's actually supposed to be Amelie in Paris? Is that real?
Oh,
yeah.
Did you trick me into that, or is that real?
It's supposed to be Emily in Paris.
Oh, that's so embarrassing. Anyway.
Yeah.
So there you go. Darren. The cinematography is by a guy named John Thomas, which is a pretty boring name. That's pretty up there with Mr. Big's real name in terms of just not inspiring confidence. It was edited by Michael Barenbaum, who edited The Untouchables and was in the sound department for Maximum Overdrive, which is pretty cool. And the music is by Aaron Zigman, who did the soundtrack for Medea's Witness Protection, Step Up 4, Miami Heat, and The Notebook. Just swooping in there at the end. And of course, we've got quick cast. We've got Sarah Jessica Parker, Kim Cattrall, Kristen Davis, Cynthia Nixon, Chris Noth, John Corbett, aka Dr. Dad, friend of the show. I think this is the 4th time we've watched a movie with him in it.
You know, I think it is too, but in watching this movie, I couldn't remember the third one. To All the Boys I've Loved Before, 2, and 48 Meters Down.
And My Big Fat Greek Wedding, too.
Oh, yes. Forgot about that.
Oh, you're
one.
right. He is in To All the Boys. I forgot about that.
How could you forget? What an iconic character.
Yeah. We love this guy. He's just a wholesome dad and everything. I think when I first came across him in watching the show, I messaged Corey right away because it was already a bit for us, but I didn't recognize him in the show. It was only in looking at his Wikipedia page and realizing it was him, which is strange because he mostly looks the same. But anyway, I was
Corbett,
very happy.
If you're listening, come on the show.
Just don't listen to the rest of this episode.
Just don't listen to the rest of this episode. We're gonna say some mean shit about Aiden for sure. And we'll have to just look past that. We've got David Eigenberg, Evan Handler, Jason Lewis, Willie Garson or Garcon, Mario Cantone. I don't know. I'm just reading words.
Willie Garcon in Perron.
Yeah, that's it. Lynn Cohen, Alice Eve, Noah Mills, Megan Boone, Max Ryan, Raza Joffrey, Viola Harris, Omid Jalili, Daffer Labidine, Art Malik, Penelope Cruz, very briefly, Liza Minnelli, and Miley Cyrus. And this movie is about this movie is about a gay couple getting married for about an hour. And then it's about
but a mere prologue.
And then it's about these 4 women getting the most disgustingly lavish, all expenses paid vacation I've ever seen in my life. And as they do that, they grapple with marriage, nannies, being exhausted by their own children, and menopause. And then they have to get the fuck out of Abu Dhabi as fast as possible.
Yeah, they
commit crimes.
They grapple with the Abu Dhabi culture as well. That's a big thing.
Yes, they do.
They sure do, and it's totally a fair representation of that. And there's no problems with it at all. Obviously, it's perfectly sound. I don't want to go first because I feel like everybody else is going to have a little bit more baggage to carry to this movie. So I think I'm more interested in, whoever feels like going first, just go ahead and pick up this mantle. But what do people who like Sex in the City think about this movie?
I mean, I hadn't watched it until a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I was having an awful day and Maddie was like, come over, I know what you need. And we watched the first Sex and the City one day, and then we watched the second one. And it was exactly what I needed because it was just so horrible, but also so much fun. But yeah, the thing that Maddie had been telling me to watch it for like a year. And the thing that Maddie always said that I now agree with is that both of the movies, especially in the second one, are not canon.
Mm-mm.
They do not.
No, they're not part of the lore.
They do not count because it's just it just goes so off the rails from like all the character development that occurs in the show and everything that's wrapped up at the end of the show that it's just like, this doesn't count.
And I really hope that ends up being true. Nowadays there's a huge trend of just sequelizing the original and ignoring all the stuff in between. So this new TV series, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they just did away with all this stuff, because if halfway through like the premiere episode they go like, oh dude, remember that time when we were in Abu Dhabi and had to run away wearing burqas so that we could fly first class, it would just totally throw the flow off. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's one of those movies, like we watched it when Laura was having a bad day, because it's like, you think your life is bad, like this movie will put it all in perspective. This movie, like, will take it, you'll have so much to be worried about, so much to be wrapped up in. It's a whirlwind. Yeah.
So here's my problem. I understand like the appeal of this being, you sit down and you watch it and it's just this like glorious catastrophe and you just have fun with it. But as a solo endeavor, this is not fun.
Yeah.
This is exhausting.
It's also quite like boring.
Dude,
Yeah.
In the middle of it. Like there's it drags. Yeah.
And the opening is like an hour. And
Yeah.
then nobody's doing anything.
No,
it's just like, what if I made fun of the fact that gay people exist for a long time, and then Liza Minnelli's gonna sing some Beyonce?
Yeah, it's pretty funny that like, the creators were mostly gay men, because it's like that opening scene just feels like a hate crime against yourself.
Dude! And it's like, and it's trying to be like, oh no, we're making like wink and nod jokes about it. And it's like, you're not, though. You can't just say, oh, isn't it funny they have swans, when in the same scene you're like, oh, gay people don't do real marriages because they say they can cheat on each other. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, there's a lot going on. For anyone who hasn't seen it, Carrie's best friend and then Charlotte's best friend are getting married.
I guess.
Like both gay best friends, and then they have this like really outlandish, extravagant wedding where Liza Minnelli does a rendition of Single Ladies.
Yeah.
2010, baby.
I hope she got paid a lot for that.
I hope Liza got a whole house out of this endeavor.
She must have.
She must have. What is the appeal if you're Liza Minnelli to do this film if you're not getting paid?
Big fan of the show, maybe? Well, the first movie was
What
already
Sex and
out
the
at that
City
point.
girl
So.
is Liza Minnelli.
Ooh, Miranda.
That was fast. You feel really assured in that choice.
That sounds right to me.
Maybe I'm just going off like the short hair. Maybe I didn't think hard enough, but...
Well, but also Miranda was the only one that understood her, because she said to Charlotte that Liza Minnelli just shows up whenever there's something super gay happening.
Yeah, that
they
hilarious
understand
joke.
each other. There's a good one. That was at least like in the top 200 of jokes in this movie.
Oh yeah, and there's tons, wall to wall comedy. So I don't know where to start with this, but I'm just gonna address this part of it now too. Is anyone else, and I'm sure the answer is yes, just completely put off by this level of like conspicuous wealth?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
it's everything is so rich and lavish all the time, to the point where the characters seem completely incapable of recognizing anything beyond this insane level of like consumerism, and I just could not deal with it. It was like getting hit over the head constantly.
Yeah, it's a
Is
lot.
it all like that, or is this like the movie is cranking it up to 12 because it's a movie?
It kind of, I feel like it's almost kind of always like that, but the funny thing about Carrie is like they try and play her off as like being broke, in like a cute way. Yeah, like she's always like, "Oh, I have no money, but I just spent $800 on shoes." And then like I feel like whenever she is in like a kind of fake money crunch like that a real person would face, she just gets like bailed out so easily. I don't know. Like
By Big or something.
yeah, by Big, or even like
Aiden helps her out
Aiden
at one point.
Aiden like buys her apartment off of her when she can't like afford it anymore or something.
And then she cheats on him.
And then she cheats on him.
Wow, Carrie, very cool.
And then she just gets to keep the apartment, I'm pretty sure. Like,
yeah, I don't even know. Then she's like, oh, how am I going to afford to buy my apartment? And then I think like her friends help her, and then she pays them back, and then they just like never talk about it again.
Yeah, I don't know what happens. But yeah, the funny thing to me about this, like how it comes through in this movie, is like how they end up like keeping her apartment when they have an apartment of their own.
Dude.
And then wait, like they also, yeah, they have a giant penthouse of their own or something, and then they also have Carrie's apartment, and that's some like
it's not a penthouse anymore. They said they moved 12 floors down.
Oh, it's a downgrade. See, that's the thing. Like they want you to think that Carrie is kind of like more humble.
She buys Big like a 50-year-old Rolex.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyways, I also thought how funny like their dilemma was like oh what were they gonna do? Like they were gonna he was gonna keep his apartment or something so that he could go back to it and they could both be in their separate apartments, but they already have two between them.
So the setup for that is so weird because yes, what they make it sound like is Carrie's like, yeah, let's keep doing this 2 days apart thing.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, so how it would work is I have a separate apartment and you have a separate apartment, and then we also have this apartment.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just need the two you already have.
Like, it makes absolutely no
because
sense.
If Carrie's not there,
then you have an empty apartment
by himself.
Yes, exactly.
They're treating this like it like okay, so when she's trying to explain it to the girls and they're like, so you would each get 2 days a week? They're saying that as if it's 2 different days. Like it's more than half the total week. And it's like that's not how this works.
It makes absolutely no sense.
Also, I forgot to mention, of course, opening song Empire State of Mind by Jay-Z and Alicia Keys.
That was
but
dope.
Conspicuously no Jay-Z.
That got me in the mood. That was nice. This is a big 2010 time capsule, this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to this just disgustingly wealthy wedding that has everybody like sleeping over on this like estate or something.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like a chorus of dudes singing, and they just make a lot of jokes about how gay people aren't like normal people, and everybody seems to think that's just kind of hilarious.
Yeah, I feel like it was made at this time where it was becoming like trendy or like in vogue to be like pro gay rights, but there was still some like lag. Like there are a lot of weird jokes and stuff.
Yeah, this is like the most bigoted progressivism I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's exactly.
It feels like it's the sort of thing where it's like, okay, now we're progressive enough that we're not gonna ignore gay people anymore. Like they're gonna be included in our movie, and we're so progressive that we're able to make fun of them. And then the gay people will know that like, oh, we're just like, you're just involved now. We're just having a goof. But it seems really, really vicious and ignorant because there's no other voice allowed in the movie. Like we just stick with the homophobic people the entire time, and that's it really. Because after that first hour, then you're past it.
Then gay people stop existing. That whole setup to the reveal being we each have one singular gay best friend, and oh my god, they're marrying each other. Like, dude. Are you for real?
And in the series, like they would always fight with each other, and yeah, it seemed a bit
Yeah,
weird.
in the series they tried to set them up, and then they both had an awful time and didn't get along. And then I don't even know if they
Yeah.
like gave any sort of backstory of how they like suddenly do love each other now. um, yeah, they definitely just kind of shoehorned that in.
It really does feel like fan fiction.
It does.
Having watched both movies so close together, I feel like I like had a really long Sex and the City dream on the
You
weekend,
left
and like
just long enough of a weird pause between Sex and the City.
I feel like I dreamt about the show and like involved all these characters that I had seen before, and like my brain just mashed them together and exaggerated the things that I remembered about the show because I'm not super familiar with it. This feels like it was written by people and acted by people that like weren't there originally, and I think that happens a lot of the time with TV shows in particular. When you're in the thick of it, you sort of forget like what it used to be, and you get it into your head like what's making people laugh now, and so characters get more exaggerated if early on in the show they found like a personality quirk that worked as a joke and that the audience liked. Then that thing gets gets embellished and
Yeah.
and
And I
caricaturized.
think that's also probably like pretty obviously to do with the fact that it like is a different director. So I think that's kind of bound to happen. Um, you know, that he kind of just took the characters that Darren Star made and just kind of took the caricature
Right, yeah.
versions of them and just did what, he wanted to do with them, and it didn't end up being very genuine to who they actually were and who the characters ended up being by the end of the show.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good point. I had totally gotten the director here confused with Darren Star. I thought that they were the same person, that this dude was in charge of the show from the beginning. And so I wonder, do you guys know like what Darren Star's involvement or lack of involvement was, or why? Because that's got to be it.
I don't know why, but I know Darren Star did the show, and I don't know about the first movie, but the director of the second movie is Michael something.
Yeah, he did the
It's not
first
Darren
movie
Star.
too.
Michael Patrick
He did the
King.
first movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
so he might have been involved in the show in some capacity, but Darren Star was the main guy who created it, and for some reason he wasn't involved in the movies, and I don't quite know why. Or maybe he was involved but not directing. Maddie, do you know at all?
I don't know, but I'm looking it up as we speak. I'm sure there are articles about this.
Yeah. And because I was looking up interviews with Michael Patrick King, the director of these movies, after watching the movie, because I was just like, what does this guy have to say for himself? And there was very little out there. And so I was thinking, why is there not much of the Sex and the City creator talking? And so it makes a lot more sense now that I know he's not the creator. It says here that he directed, wrote, and executive produced for the show, and his involvement was in 93 episodes. So it sounds like he was there, but he might not have had the creative control that Darren Star had. So this is him like finally getting to play with all those characters, I guess.
Yeah, that's just interesting that Michael Patrick King was involved. Did you say he was a writer, an executive producer?
Yeah, and a director too. So he probably just had involvement with a lot of the episodes, but he just wasn't.
Oh well, then my whole
showrunner,
thesis is wrong.
But it's I think it holds some sort of water. Like if this Darren Star guy, created the show, and he would have been the showrunner there at least for most of it. And so like he's mostly calling the shots, and then I guess like My idea is that like Michael Patrick King was like there on the sidelines. He's doing what he's told and making as many calls as he can as the director. But then when he has the chance to like really go all out with these characters, then he goes hard and does what he's envisioning, because when there's so many people working on a show, you really need one person to steer the ship. So he probably didn't get as much creative input as maybe he would have liked to.
I don't know if this movie found their guy to steer this ship, because it goes into some choppy waters.
I just looked it up, and this article I'm reading says Darren Star created Sex and the City, but by the end of the series, he was no longer involved in creating plot lines or scripts.
Right. Yeah. And that often happens with like long running TV shows, right? So I guess that means he might not be involved in the show.
Oh, interesting.
Right.
So Darren Star said he didn't want Carrie to end up with Mr. Big. I think ultimately the show betrayed what it was about, which was that women don't ultimately find happiness from marriage. So he was disappointed with the ending, as we all were.
What?
Dude, there you go. Extent. Yeah, that's our guy. So
that, that actually very much explains why the movies are shite. Because
we've lost Darren Star's creative vision.
His vision got away from him into the hands of someone else.
We were betrayed from within, and that
the call was coming from inside the house.
It could totally happen, right? Like, dude, the first Panic at the Disco album, I love that album, and it was written by the guitarist Ryan Ross. He did the lyrics and the music, and of course Brendan Urie, whose voice we all recognize. He sang the songs, but then Ryan Ross left the band, and since then Brendan Urie has got more and more creative control, and
to the point where isn't Panic at the Disco just him?
It's just him now, yeah. And so of course you have people.
He got more and more creative control because he forcibly made every other band member leave.
Right, and there are obviously people out there that still really love Panic at the Disco, just as there are people out there who love these Sex and the City movies. But you can't deny that the reason it's changed is because like creative control has shifted, even though that person was there from the beginning, and you might be able to you might have conflated their sensibilities and thought that they might be similar, but it turns out that these two people have different tastes and ideas all along, and so Michael Patrick King is just the timeline we ended up getting.
So I'm thinking about it, and I just realized I think we're literally maybe like a fifth of the way into this movie so far.
Okay, sorry.
No. I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm just realizing that. Like, I'm looking at my notes that I have, and I'm just like, there is so much. We will be here for days.
There's a lot. Yeah. What can we go to next? So there's
we have the wedding,
big gay covered. Wedding, and then like the big like crisis with Carrie is that her and Big are finally like together in like a stable relationship. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they think they're unique for not wanting kids.
Yeah.
And they're just feeling that out as adults. And I think at the same time as this is when we're getting the nanny B plot.
Oh yeah, which is a fun one. And I love how like the friends kind of like contribute to it.
Yeah, they make it way worse for her.
Yeah. I also love how every time like the way that they introduce the nanny is like a slow-mo shot of her like jogging.
It's the worst.
With no bra and doing like a cartwheel, and then there's this like Irish jig music playing, and it's really great. It's really great. It's just like, wow.
It is ridiculous.
And then I'm pretty sure the second time we see her, it's in a bathroom, and like she's actively like wetting her shirt. Her white shirt that she's also not wearing a bra. I just want to get the punchline of this whole subplot out of the way. Why is it that the only reason you don't have to worry about your husband wanting to have sex with your nanny is if she's a lesbian?
Yeah.
Why is that the answer to that problem?
Yeah, I don't know. And also, like, Harry would never cheat on her anyway. So it's like a
Charlotte's just an emotional wreck.
yeah,
all
it's
the
just
time.
like a subplot so that there would be something for Charlotte to be upset about. Like, it's not.
They wrote a scene where Cynthia Nixon, what's her name? Miranda.
Yeah.
Where Miranda and Charlotte are talking in Abu Dhabi, and they didn't know what they were going to talk about, so they wrote that into the beginning of the movie, so they had something
Honestly,
to talk about. Like,
are you talking about the scene when they have a drink and they're talking about motherhood?
yeah, I guess it's more about motherhood. I kind of forgot.
Because honestly, I will say that's probably one of my favorite scenes in like all of Sex and the City, the franchise, because you never really get to see a lot of the girls together having these moments without Carrie.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. So I actually thought that that was quite nice. And I wish that they just kept Charlotte's storyline for that movie just about her struggling with motherhood, because I think that is a great storyline. I think that's great for Charlotte. Well, not great, but like a great way to see her grow.
It felt like a real thing.
Yeah, it felt like a real thing and not just like ridiculous. And I feel like adding the whole nanny thing into it just kind of made her problems seem ridiculous and frivolous, and like she was just a hysterical hormonal woman because she's just, you know, had children. And I don't know, it was pretty disappointing. Like, I think they could have gone somewhere with that.
Yeah, none of
like
it's fair.
Really, no. And like, I think they really could have done Charlotte justice, because Charlotte's kind of like just ridiculous, like this ridiculous woman who's like this hopeless romantic a lot, and kind of like poked fun at throughout the show a lot by the girls as well. And I just thought that like that would have been a nice, I don't know, missed opportunity for them to really give Charlotte some genuine character growth and an interesting real plot line for her, and they just fucked it up and put that stupid nanny storyline in.
Yeah, for sure. I'm trying to think of like what is even important from nanny in the movie to when they actually go on the trip. And I think the answer might genuinely be nothing, because all that happens is they have an anniversary, Carrie and Big. I can't believe we just casually call him that. It's so weird. But and he wants to watch Deadliest Catch in the bedroom. And so he turns his second wedding anniversary into an excuse to buy a television, and conjures up a genuinely kind of bullshit reason that's pretty easy to see through. And Carrie is not having it. And they argue about what their marriage is going to be like, which sets up the potential for living in 16 separate apartments throughout the course of the year, all across New York. And meantime, Samantha is a PR person, and she did the PR for a guy whose name is Smith Jared.
Yeah.
God.
I
Is
love
he from
him.
the TV show?
Yeah, Smith Jared is like her long running, I guess, like her longest relationship, I would think, right?
Mm-hmm. Her healthiest relationship,
And her best,
for sure.
yeah, like healthiest relationship.
But they once again they fuck it up.
Yeah, that was awful. Yeah. Oof. Anyways, but yeah, that was in the first movie where they like make them break up, I think. Yeah. And then
sorry.
But in this one, like she's still on like good flirty terms with him, and that's how she gets the PR thing, because he's doing a movie that's like was filmed in the Middle East. Yeah.
Yeah, so he did a movie in Abu Dhabi, and he was there to shoot the poster, and the premiere is coming up, and it's gonna be there, and he wants her there,
Yeah.
and she somehow turns that into me and my 3 best friends are getting an all expense paid week-long trip to Abu Dhabi
Mm-hmm.
at the expense of this dude. To be completely honest, I don't fully understand what I'm supposed to know about the Sheikh Khalid. I don't know what his deal is or what his character is or anything other than he's rich as fuck and just willing to pay for this. And they're like, yeah, sure, we'll pay for an extremely opulent trip to Abu Dhabi. And at first in my notes, I started to wonder, I was like, did this movie get funding from Abu Dhabi or something? Like, is
Yeah.
this an ad? Was this like a tourism ad disguised as a movie? And then I realized no, because this movie
No.
is way, way, way too racist to possibly be that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and it ends with them like literally running out of Abu
as
Dhabi.
fast as they can.
It's not like, oh, we had such a magical time in Abu Dhabi, and like Carrie's like looking out the window on the taxi ride
Longingly.
out, and she's like, I couldn't help but wonder. It's not like that. It's like, oh no, like we gotta go.
So I feel like it's important to mention this if people don't know. I'm going to quote Wikipedia directly here.
Oh boy.
Filming in New York City was postponed to the end of July as Emirati authorities refused clearance for filming in the United Arab Emirates. Consequently, the Abu Dhabi segment of the film was filmed in Morocco.
Really?
They didn't even shoot the movie there because the government would not allow it. And frankly, the
Wow.
government made a pretty good call here, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, they did. And that's interesting. I feel like you see that bleed into the movie and their like hostility towards, I don't know, or they're like, oof. Yeah.
Like, there's this sense of like, I don't even know how to explain it, but like,
It's truly baffling to like watch the movie happen.
yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a bad
Hold on, wait,
fever dream.
there's a slight contradiction in the Wikipedia. Because this says authorities later revoked filming clearance. So either they rejected it initially or they approved it and then changed their mind.
I wonder if they rewrote the end of the script to like reflect their own experience of being kicked out.
Oh, maybe.
Or
Oh,
maybe once the government read the end of the script,
Yeah.
it took them a while. It's a 2.5 hour long movie, so like they were at like page 170. They had been reading it for like 2 weeks, and they were like, okay, fine, you guys can film here. And then a week later, they got to page 785, and they saw what happens at the end, and they were like, yeah, you guys can't.
Oh
you
my
can't do this."
god. Oh my god.
Like you wouldn't believe it.
I am
It's
reading
ridiculous.
a Hollywood Reporter article about
Mhm.
the writing of this movie. Holy shit, this is fucking crazy. When King sat down to write the sequel, he was thinking about the global recession and how people's spirits needed lifting. What did movie
Oh.
makers do in the other Big Depression? They made big movies and escapist comedies, he says. The result is what he calls his homage to 30s movies, starting with wildly over-the-top wedding reception for Stanford and Anthony. I got to direct a movie that felt like an MGM musical with big glittery sets indoors and musical numbers with Liza Minnelli. Here's the kicker, though. King shifts gears for the movie's second half, which he says is, quote, more the road picture or epic sort of David Lean feel. He shot it not in Abu Dhabi. He just compared himself to fucking David Lean. But in Morocco, where there's a solid filmmaking infrastructure. In fact, King wound up using the same sand dunes that Lean filmed for Lawrence of Arabia. And if I skip a couple paragraphs quickly, King thought about setting Sex 2 in Dubai or Abu Dhabi because they were glamorous high luxury markets free of financial troubles at the time. Quote, I settled on Abu Dhabi because it was more exotic and more unknown. Unknown to who, Michael? What the fuck are you talking about?
Oh,
That's
boy.
actually like what I was gonna say is that's very funny that he
This dude's head is so far up his own ass.
Yeah, that, and then also that he took inspiration apparently from David Lean, because one of the best lines in the movie is when there's like some sexy man that rides up on a camel or something, and then Sam looks at him and goes, "Lawrence of my labia." And it's the best line in the movie.
Yeah, that line was...
And that leads us, to discuss just like they did everyone dirty, like every character
Oh my god.
dirty, but they did Sam the dirtiest. Like,
so is she not always like this?
She
like
is.
This ratcheted up?
She is, but I feel like it was just like embarrassing in this movie. Like it was over the edge. Like she was like a horn dog. Like
she wants to fuck everything.
Yeah, and I think she wasn't so desperate in the TV show. Like she was very classy and controlled and like, I don't know,
very confident.
And here she just feels kind of desperate.
And if I'm remembering correctly, the reasoning they provide for that is she's going through menopause.
Well, she's trying to stave off menopause with a weird hormone cocktail.
Which is just like a really gross storyline as well.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that it was written by a man. Because it just kind of like
script didn't have a woman within 100 years, like fucking miles.
It just reinforces this idea that just like women getting older just means like a lack of sexuality and sexual attractiveness, and that's like the most important thing for Sam. And it's just like,
there's a whole scene built around the fact that the Emirati government takes all of her hormone creams away, and then an Australian rugby team shows up, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm not horny. That must mean I'm dead," basically.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, it is not good. So I understand why Kim Cattrall does not want to be involved in any of this anymore.
Shit.
No.
I'm thinking about the shot when they get on the plane. And first of all, what the fuck kind of plane is like that? It has like a bar.
I was gonna say
you can like walk to.
Yeah.
Like, are there planes like that for real? Do rich people just live on another planet from us? Like,
I think there are, honestly, and especially the ones that fly to Abu Dhabi on what's it called? Air Emirates? Is that it?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't know what else it would be called, but anyway, that shot where fucking Carrie just picks up the Pringles and the camera zooms in and she's holding them like a commercial and just says Arabic Pringles.
Yeah.
Like, that's gonna haunt me for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's set this up a bit. So, they fly to Abu Dhabi, first class, all expenses paid, and they meet up with like the sheik of this place. If it sounds like I don't know what I'm talking about, it's because the movie doesn't know what it's talking about. This is the best I can do to explain it. And they get to this big like palatial estate hotel resort, and it is truly one of the most, like, I've never thought that like wealth should be redistributed more than seeing how wealth was being used in this movie. Welcome to this country